Every single school in Britain will be given support on teaching about LGBT relationships after lessons sparked protests from parents, Education Secretary says. I'm Stuart Fenton and I'm the clinical manager here at R12 in North Thailand. I wasn't really openly gay when I was at school. I was so repressed actually in my sexuality because my dad was a footballer and a farmer and everything like that, and there was so much homophobia around me. I was aware that I was effeminate, but I really tried to hide all those characteristics in myself. But I think that was quite a hard thing to do, and so I still ended up getting bullied quite a bit and teased and called effeminate names, and so that experience was actually pretty traumatic. And there was a lot of verbal abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, and it was very difficult. And I would have to say that I was very relieved and glad when I got to leave school when I was 17, so I didn't have to, or so that I could actually be around different kinds of people that were much more accepting and supportive of me. I think being LGBT in schools these days is a lot easier, and I can give you an example. When recently a friend that I went to school with, her son rang me up, and his mum had told me that he had come out to her at the age of 13 and told her that he was gay, and he wanted to do a school project where he asked me questions about what it was like for me. And when I told him how difficult it was for me at school, just being effeminate, not even being out and openly gay, he was incredulous. And he was telling me that he was 13 years old and he was out at his school in Western Australia, and his friends didn't really have any struggle with that at all. And to be honest, I was really astounded by that, and part of me felt sad and that I didn't have that experience as well. But I also felt a lot of joy and hope that the world is changing and that schools are changing. And I think particularly in Australia too, where there is a lot of homophobia and bullying, that this is definitely a move forward. I believe there's a need for LGBT education in schools because, just like any other minority, we have a history and we need to be proud of our history, and I think it's really important for other people to understand us. There is a famous saying that people hate what they don't understand, and I think that education allows people to have a greater understanding of whoever it is, whether it be black people or gay people, whatever. And so it's absolutely important that LGBT studies should take up some part of the curriculum. Yes, I think this backlash of parents taking their kids out of school because LGBT studies are, it's being discussed that they're going to be taught there is quite sad. I think obviously the impact is going to be huge on the mental health of young LGBT people. In Australia, just as recently as 2 years ago, the LGBT community fought for marriage equality, and there were so many debates and discussions in the media and the news and online about why we shouldn't have marriage equality, and the impact of that on young LGBT Australians was massive. They literally noticed that there was a spike in suicides in LGBT young people, and so that was just from a 6-month occasion of campaigning for marriage equality. So here you've got kids turning up to school with parents. From what I see on the news, the parents are standing outside the schools protesting that LGBT studies shouldn't be taught in schools. Kids are walking past this, they're seeing this, and if they're LGBT, of course, it's going to have that same effect of shaming them. It's going to have an impact on their self-esteem. It's going to have an impact on their mental health, and ultimately not be good for them as they evolve into older LGBT people. There are some schools that are very determined to teach LGBT studies and are very supportive of their LGBT communities, whereas there are other schools that are not so strong in that regard. And I think it's important for families to know where they're sending their kids to school if they identify as LGBT. At R12, we mostly focus on educating people about the history of LGBT in our LGBT groups, which we run twice a week. And so we cover topics like minority stress, the HIV/AIDS crisis, chemsex, what it was like to come out, and how healthy is the gay community. And we actually find that this is one of the most popular groups because there's a lot of older LGBT people that we have here who actually know a lot of the history about the Stonewall riots and about Harvey Milk and which were the first states to decriminalise homosexuality. But then there's a whole new generation who are really enjoying the benefits of what those people fought for, and I think it's really important for them to understand that it wasn't always like this. And so those groups that we run here at R12 are incredibly important. If you want to find out more information, there will be a link in the description.